Hey everyone, time for another fanfic reading. Chapter 5 of Awoken. Oh, you misunderstand. I'm not playing. I'm serious. Do you see the stat con? She pointed down to her ankle where the golden trim device lay beeping. With a simple click, I can bring the whole guard force down on you. You're strong, and your followers are desperate. But do you really think you can win in a situation like that? I knew I couldn't. Too many times had I seen failed uprising attempts. Every fiber in my body willed me to just give up. My attempts at redemption were nothing more than fantastical theorizing. Yet still something deep down made me want to try. It's not a matter of winning or losing, Dash, I murmured. It's a matter of spreading your wings and trying to fly. A clicking noise followed by the slamming of a door, off in the distance and at the far end of the hall. Flooding out like spectra from the Pegasus device, guards began to arrive. Rainbow Dash had only been stalling time. "And fly, orchestrator," she shouted. Her Gertrude voice, rose above the commotion. "Fly to the slaughter." She lunged at me, and I jumped to meet her. We collided in mid-air and fell rolling on the ground. After laying a solid buck across Rainbow Dash's side, dazing her momentarily, I turned to shout at the panicked ponies. "What are you doing just standing there? Leave! The guards will be on you in a few minutes. Fly to the upper gangplanks and wait for me there." That was all they had to hear. In a massive flurry, they took off, flying over and running past me and Rainbow Dash. On seeing the departing Pegasi, the overmare howled in rage. With a heave, she threw me off of her. I flew uncontrollably through the air and smashed headfirst into a wall. As Rainbow Dash took off, I groggily sprung up, grabbing her rainbow tail in my jaws and yanking her back down to the floor. She fell in a cyan pile, rolling quickly out of the way as I moved in to finish her off. My one hoof smashed the ground where her body used to be and splintered painfully. I fell to the floor. "Did you really think you could kill me?" was Rainbow Dash's mocking response. "Me, a god, and you, a simple mortal." Using the wall as my crook, I pulled myself into a standing position. "You're not a god, Dash. You can die like the rest of us. Stop fooling yourself." Launching off to the wall and into midair, I attempt to ram into the Pegasus. She countered and spun me around, pinning me to the wall. At this point, the guards had caught up. Rainbow Dash turned her head to address them. "Go after the others," she ordered over her shoulder. "I'll take care of this one." The soldiers moved past us and took flight, leaving the overmare to finish her victim off. She returned her attention to me. "You," she growled. "Look at what have you done." An uncomfortable pressure at my chest as Rainbow Dash pressed me harder against the wall. "You both ruined your stature and disgraced your overmare." She dropped me onto the floor and struck me across the face. "You had so much potential." She bucked me again and then pulled me back up to the wall. "I thought you were going to be my successor." How wrong was I? I can see now that you wouldn't have lasted a day in my horseshoes, let alone a lifetime. I could practically feel her building raids. I had to act quickly, or else I'd be finished off. Reaching down, I yanked at her taser and held it firm. Tensing in preparation, I flickered on the device while it was still around her hip. Placing my hoof to meet the vibrant blue bolt that had appeared, I felt a jolt as electricity passed through me and into Rainbow Dash. Her grip went slack for a mere second. Taking the small chance I had, I wiggled out of her crushing hold and slid between her hind legs. She turned to confront me, but I was too fast. Bringing both my hooves to the back of her head, I put all my weight in and smashed her forehead against the wall. She croaked and collapsed in a heap on the floor. My two front hooves, one burning with pain and the other shattered, were proving to be unusable, so I began to hover. Thankfully, my wings were still functioning perfectly. As I went to leave the hallway, I took one last look at the unconscious, hopefully dead Pegasus. Already a pool of blood was beginning to form around her still body. To my utter disgust, I felt a shock of empathy. As much as I hated her, she had been the one who let me live in the end. She had, in her own twisted way, been protecting me ever since I killed that filly all that time ago. Turning away from the mess, I flew out of the hallway and into the main floor of the Rainbow Factory. The sight of the desolation that met me as I arrived at the upper gangplanks made me shudder. The bodies of both unarmed Pegasus and guards littered the ground. For a fleeting moment, I actually thought every pony had died. I was wrong. A distress call coming from somewhere drew my attention. I started making my way to the far end of the factory. There was still some sort of commotion going on. A single pony was leaning over another with a silver mane. The Pegasus resting at her side was convulsing in a seizure most definitely instigated by a taser. I was both mortified and deeply relieved. As I approached, the lone survivor turned her head from her to address me. I realized with a start that it was the gray-colored one from before. "So you're still alive," she said. I could tell she was holding back tears. "We all thought you were dead." She looked back down at the dying pony in her hooves. "Either way, you're too late. All the rest of them have fallen." I nodded grievously, biting my lip. "I didn't expect the overmare to make an appearance," I explained. "You should be glad that you're still around. As long as you make it, every ounce of blood spilt would have been worth it in the end. All it takes is a single soul to exploit the dark secrets of the Rainbow Factory." I paused to take a breath. "We can still escape, but we have to move quickly. Are you ready to go?" The silver-maned pony had finally stilled in the gray-colored one's hooves. Her heart, unable to overcome the electric shock, had stopped beating. Reluctantly, the lone filly got up, nodding slowly at me. "Good." However, hovering over the terminal, I typed in the password to relieve. The doors swung open. "Follow me, please." When we arrived in the hall, I realized with a start that something was different. The lights were all off. Walking deeper in the room, the younger Pegasus closed in towards me. I went over to the far wall and felt around for a light switch. After a moment, I found it. I clicked it on. The sight that met my eyes as the light flickered to life made my heart skip a beat. In panic, to my greatest horror, the hall had been blocked off on two sides by metal walls. My mind reeled as I tried to comprehend quickly. The portal door that the two of us had entered in from slid shut. We were trapped. "What the hell is this?" the gray-colored Pegasus growled, turning to me. "You tricked me." I didn't," was my weak response. I raised my front hooves up in innocence. I was beyond confusion. "I'm going to die in here, you bastard." The enraged Pegasus took an aggressive step towards me. Her wings were flare and tears of anger began to fall down her cheeks. How could you play me like this? I didn't respond. I was too discombobulated to talk. I had somehow confused the doors impossible. If I'd done that, I wouldn't have been able to get in the first place. What in the name of Luna is going on? I win. The voice, coming from the small camera mounted in the area over the door, crackled in the pool of static. I win, and you lose, soldier. That voice. Impossible. Or maybe not. I began to shudder uncontrollably, my world blurred around the edges. Confused? Let me explain in a moment of silence. Currently, you and your companion are in between two breached walls. Years ago, they were installed by the last overmer as a foolproof if all else failed. I have to admit, this is the first time I actually got to use them. Those wretched Spectra donators you riled really put up a fight this time around. Yet in the end, it was to no avail, clearly. All you've done is trap the last beacon of hope for me. A sharp burst of laughter that ripped at my nerves. My stomach began to twist painfully and distressed. I had plans to come in and pay you a visit, but then I changed my mind. I thought to myself, why not kill him and the bitch in one go? That way my best orchestrator could die alongside the stifled moaning of the pony he had a hoof in ultimately killing. Speaking of killing, as much as you'll deny it, soldier, you killed them all. And because of what? A pretty concept of redemption. Did you really think you could escape and just go back to living amongst normal society? I think you did. Tears started to blur my vision. This was all too much. My wings gave out and I fell to the floor. I no longer had the will to rise. I was the only one doing what I thought was right. I could have lived with myself any longer, and my voice cracked as I began to sob into the floor. Thick lines of moisture rolled down my grimy cheeks. Oh, what am I going to love? I am going to love watching you die. You sniveling, whorish disgrace. A hissing noise, and I began to look around frantically. What's going on? Do you hear that? I think you do. As we speak, the oxygen is being drained from the room. You have 2 minutes. With a resolute click, the audio cut, leaving behind a pressing wave of static already. Black dots were spreading to consume my vision. One of the symptoms, no doubt the oxygen deprivation, turning my heavy head to the gray-colored Pegasus. I motioned for her to come to my side. At least I could die alongside the pony I hadn't been corrupted by the factory. A pony that had lived amongst society, even now craved to return. A society that will forever be out of my grasp. In a drunken fashion, the dizzy Pegasus tried to walk over to me, but her legs gave out underneath her. At about the halfway point, I tried to crawl towards her, but I could no longer move. A deadly Eurythia had paralyzed me to the spot. The black dots became frenzied, and my vision died altogether. What's your name? I whispered weakly, looking in the general direction of the filly. Silence for a second or two. Starlight, the frail voice replied. Starlight spot. Then there was nothing. Only two noises remained. The clanking of the Rainbow Factory, one story below, and the ever-present static. It was truly over now. But the bright sun is burning, and my sky shines, ever blue. Friendships surround me. I'm becoming part of you. Clouds, stars, faces, illuminated by shining, the shining sun, and emperized by the blue sky. Peaceful wind, lazy wind. A paradise I thought I could never reach. The Rainbow Factory remains, floating through the sky far beneath me. And that is the official end to the Rainbow Factory sequel, Awoken.